Welcome to the Stress Detox Podcast. I'm your host, Edie Goditis. I support female leaders through stress management and embodiment coaching, workplace wellness groups with stress management workshops. I am a best-selling author, and I also facilitate one-day and week-long retreats, as well as online programs and other amazing offerings. And today we are talking about the vagus nerve. So, what is the vagus nerve and why does it matter? Our vagus nerve is essentially a communicator within our nervous system that helps us shift from fight and flight in the parasympathetic nervous system into our rest and digest, create, recover mode of the parasympathetic nervous system. And the vagus nerve makes up a large part of our parasympathetic nervous system. The vagus nerve runs from the base of the brain, and then it splits into many branches and runs down the neck and up into the face, governing facial connection expression. And it runs down the body into the heart and the lungs, and then into the low abdomen, into all of our sort of digestive detoxification organs. And the vagus nerve is not fully developed when we are born. So from the age of 0 to 7, when we are exploring the world and we are starting to develop the perspective through which we see life, which might be clouded by different experiences, some may be a little more adverse or even traumatic. This can impact then the connection, the signal that we have, the strength of the signal rather, that we have with our vagus nerve and helping to access the rest and digest comfort branch in our nervous system. What I mean by this is if in the ages of 0 to 7, a need is not met. And looking back as an adult now, you might remember an experience, but you also might see it and be like, that's not a really big deal. Like, I just stubbed my toe and my parents told me not to cry. For your little brain, 0 to 7, if that was something that you heard in your early days of development, and then it was something that was constantly repeated or reminded of, like, oh, just brush it off, you're fine. Oh, you stubbed your toe, just brush it off, you're fine. For yourself, for a little person, that might have really hurt. That might have been scary. That might have been really uncomfortable. You might have really wanted a hug from your parents, and you might have wanted to know, like, it's okay, you're safe, everything's fine. How does your toe feel? Do you need us to kiss it? Whatever. Like, we need more reassurance than we might recognize. And at our core as humans, we thrive when we feel that sense of connection and love and belonging. So if as a child, there was an experience that happened, or there was a reaction from our caregivers that was a repeated reaction, that then led us to believe, like, I'm not meant to express my emotions and I'm not actually supported. And maybe our little brain translated our parents saying, just like, don't cry about it, you're fine. Like, our little brain might have changed that to, well, they don't care. So there are so many subtleties within it from childhood that end up running narratives within our subconscious that then obviously drive actions and behaviors in our life. And so with the development of that signal, then if we were in childhood and that sense of safety wasn't always present, and if we actually ended up feeling more on guard than we realize and really just stuffing down these feelings of stress or fear, we just stuffed them down and like kept going, that impacts the connection, the strength of the signal from the brain to the body to communicate safety. If it's not something we're doing all the time, if we're not feeling safe, then we're locked in the sympathetic nervous system of fight and flight, of just like, right, okay, I stubbed my toe, it's fine, keep moving forward, like just fight, go for it. Like I'm on my defense, I'm good, move forward. And that keeps us in the sympathetic more often than not. And then when we want to access the parasympathetic to actually relax, to create, to feel fun and at ease, it's more challenging because the signal is weak. So then we have to strengthen the signal. So an example, again, my own life. When I was in high school, I had very frequent IBS sort of reactions with eating. And it was like immediate. And it was quite common whenever we would go out to dinner, or it could have been at home. And part of it might have been, yes, a response to like me eating food that my body wasn't used to. And the other part though was it was like very extreme. And I also had like acid reflux, GERD, what was that? Gastroesophageal reflux disease. I also had a lot of feelings of nausea in my 20s when I was told that I had GERD and when the digestive issues were super, super severe. And when I look back at those time periods, my parents are amazing. Their relationship at times, though, was quite turbulent, and there were a lot of arguments. And when I was in high school, I felt like I was really on guard, to be aware of what the heck was happening and if I needed to interfere or if I just wanted to straight up leave the house and not hear it. But I was always on a sense of being on guard. There was that was like how I lived. It was always this low level anxiety and like always being aware. That affects our body because then I'm not digesting as well as if I'm actually relaxed. So like we want to be in our parasympathetic nervous system to really digest our food. We want to feel relaxed and getting all the nutrients and having circulation through the body and to be able to breathe in a way that feels relaxed and to feel that like slowness is safe. But if we're in environments that are quite triggering, where our safety feels compromised, then we're not accessing the rest and digest. So then we're trying to digest food when the signal in our brain is going all hands on deck, fight or flight. It's not worried about digestion. So then the digestion gets really inhibited because it's not having the proper movement or signal of how to digest and release the food. And when I look at my 20s, my early 20s, that was also when I was having like the most hands down, the most severe digestive issues. And at the time, I was placing all the stress on myself because I was feeling that whatever I was doing was not enough having graduated university and that I was not living up to my standard of what success and productivity was from a career standpoint. And I was feeling incredibly hard on myself and judgmental of myself and critical of myself. And I was like so deeply stuck in an I'm not enough story. And the shame was keeping me locked in fight and flight, a feeling I was always trying to prove myself. And my body was just having all the issues. Like it was really trying to get my attention because there was no signal allowing me to get into the parasympathetic to really relax and to heal. So then my body was getting like worse and worse with digestive issues until I finally then sought out support with like naturopathic doctors in addition to my physician. And that's when they were like, you need to start meditating. And like, do you breathe? Like, you do flow yoga. What about hatha? What about just walking for the sake of walking, not it being you speed walking to this location or trying to run to do this? Like, what if you just slow things down? What if you take some breaths before you eat? What if you bring awareness to your low belly before you have a meal? And that to me was like life-changing, because I didn't realize that I wasn't breathing. I didn't realize that I was so disconnected from my body. And I didn't realize how much taking time to just get grounded and to then breathe before I had a meal would communicate that level of like, I'm safe, I'm supported. Now I can receive this meal and receive the nutrients from the meal and like convert it to whatever it needs to be converted into and digested and so on. So our mindset directly affects our stress, and unprocessed trauma from childhood directly affects our stress and how easily the sympathetic nervous system is triggered into a stress response. So the vagus nerve is very important to start to connect with through different practices that I'll share in another video that help us strengthen that connection, that tone, the signal, the communication, so that then when we send a signal from the brain to the low belly, it actually gets to the low belly versus trying to send a signal from the brain to my low belly that I'm about to eat. But because I'm super stressed and in my sympathetic nervous system, my parasympathetic nervous system is not kicking on because I'm still stuck over here. So then I'm eating food, but I'm not actually digesting it properly or receiving the nutrients from it properly because I'm still locked in the fight and flight. So our vagus nerve is very important, and we can have different health complications because of that weaker signal that just comes back to practicing mindfulness and breath and connection with body to really slow things down so that we can really heal on this deeper level, which then shifts so many other aspects of our life, which is really beautiful. So the vagus nerve is something that we can, unless it's like super damaged from an accident or a disease, which is a whole other conversation. But in terms of just like stress and anxiety, it's something that we can work with to strengthen that communication, so to speak, that helps then with us accessing the parasympathetic nervous system. The other piece with the vagus nerve that is fascinating that I'll just say for a moment as well is if the vagus nerve is overstimulated, then that's when we get something called vaso to vasovagal, which is fainting. And that's where it's just like there's too much going on and our body essentially just stops. So it just is like, gotta like blood pressure drops, shut down. And so as Irene Lyons has said in some of her work, that can be like compared to a very intense freeze response. And in my experience, again, like when I sustained the concussion in 2022, that was the end of a week for me that was mentally, emotionally so stressful for my body, more than I was admitting to at all. I was very much in a space of like, I'm fine, it's great, I'm fine, it's great. And I really was not. And my body communicated it to me by having that incident happen with me fainting and then hitting my head on the ground. Which led to a very severe concussion. So our body is amazing, and when we are navigating high levels of stress, it really does speak to us. It's the matter of us tuning in and then listening to what we hear. And instead of it being like my body is against me, my body hates me, that was a narrative I used to have. It was very much, I felt that I was like at war with myself and I couldn't trust my body. And yeah, I just totally thought it hated me. And truth, my body was like, hey, take care of me, please. Hey, you're super stressed. We need to slow down. I need you to connect with your breath and like check in, come back home. So our body is always communicating. And I really encourage you in your own life to notice the ways that it is communicating with you, and notice your digestive patterns. Notice your like heart rate. Notice your breathing patterns. Notice how quickly you feel triggered, and notice when you feel most relaxed. And just tune into this from a space of non-judgment, of just curiosity. But I encourage you to get curious. In my journey with really healing my body and regulating my nervous system, it's been a big it's been a big step back so that I can get the full perspective and really notice, okay, what's going on and what was going on in these time frames, and what was I thinking in these time frames, and how has this affected things? And now, okay, so what are some tools I can do to support myself here? So in another video, I will be sharing, or in another episode, I'll be sharing specific tools to help with regulating in the moment, as well as more sustainable practices for everyday life to feel most at ease and regulated most of the time. So I will share those in a separate episode. In the meantime, as always, if you have questions or comments, please reach out, please comment below, please like, share, follow. And I hope this is helpful to you. And I hope you have a really beautiful rest of your day, evening, or week. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.